Okay, you guys, this is kind of my grand plan. I want to do a ring. You know, when you set it up, you have to remember there's going to be a lot of hollow space, but I really love the idea of putting gems. I can see I'm gonna have to do a really perfect fit to fit everything in, you know, so I don't go outside the lines. You can see I have shot plate in here, you know, tiny little, using my Indian dies and, you know, just little marks and markers. This one, I put together a few different components, made this my own. I'm really into this beautiful shape lately. So, okay, well, I'm gonna get started. I think usually I just start with the wall, but I'm actually gonna get this all soldered, you know, lay down all the solder and probably do everything at one time. No, you know what? I actually am gonna start with the outer wall. The twisted wire is a little bit difficult to put down, so I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do that. And then we'll get the inside done next. Okay. Get this nice and warmed up. Pick in hand. Once I warm this up just a little, I'll probably put another spritz on. You guys can hear that wind outside. I'm actually just coming up to a cold board, so you're gonna see I'm gonna need a little bit of time to get this nice and hot. I'll be able to get in here and get it done super quick. Wow, that's a lot of flux. I just had a whole new container of flux. So let me get my solder down. We'll see if this is gonna work. Okay. Okay, I've got my medium. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the center, and then I'm just gonna hit the outside. You know, you just really wanna solder away from, you guys saw how I flattened down. Oh, there's a lot of flux right here. Let's see if I can get some of that out. Okay. Okay. Get the flux out. Okay. It's gonna be a fun piece. I'm excited about it. There's a little bit, the wire is a tiny bit elevated over here, but once I get my piece down and the solder flowing, I can easily push that down. So you guys know I flattened my, twisted wire because you know, twisted wire, to be able to get all of this down flat, because there's a lot of air in between a twist, you really need to get a little bit more surface on there, and the way to get surface is through flattening it a bit. Okay, torch in hand. All right, I'm gonna come from under to get this going, to get my board warmed up. It's always good, even if you've got a bare torch, just to get this board warmed up under, get my screen warmed up. Once my screen is warmed up, it helps my pieces from not popping around. And once I get this heated, I've got a lot, you know, a big surface to work with here, but once I get this heated, you know, I pretty much can work on the outside of these twisted wires, and I should not have a problem at all. This flux is, I put on way too much flux, or I need to water my flux down. Okay. Get this warmed up here. Now, coming all the way up in the air, but that's okay. I'll get it back down again. There it goes. Okay. I'm gonna start where my torch is laying flat and just kind of get this solder flowing. There we go. You just want to make sure that you heat this base plate really well. You don't want your solder coming up on top of your twisted wire because you'll never be able to retrieve it again. That's the hard part about it. And you can see as I get closer, I'm just pushing my wire in. I kind of put it down haphazard. You guys know, you guys saw me put it down kind of haphazard. So the nice thing is I can go in nice and strong with this piece, but I'm going to be coming in again a couple more times. So if it's not completely 100% secure, don't worry, it will be. I've got a couple pieces of solder on the outside, so I'm going to come in from here. Beautiful. Okay, let me make sure the side is down. Okay, we've got this nice and good. I've got still a nice flat. I wanted to tell you guys that I'm working with a, I'm working with a 20, wait, let me see. I think it's still a 24 gauge, maybe a 22. So, you know, by just heating it evenly underneath, I'm not getting my piece curled up in any way. So my next steps is I'm gonna pickle it actually. So get it pickled, and I'm gonna do quite a few more of them. My bezel is somewhat clean. Don't worry, I had so much flex on it that it's still a little dirty, but in the end it's gonna look good. This is down nice and secure. I'm gonna go ahead and get some medium on the back of my components and be able to lay my two bezels down in here. So I'm gonna grab some medium, and I always like to do a little bit of pick soldering. Truthfully, that's my favorite. So let me go ahead and grab my torch. Okay. In my studio, you guys can hear. Okay, I just put a little dot. There's a hole right in there. This is one of the components in my space. Oops, there we go. Okay, have it in the right space. And is that the only piece? All right, let me get that fitted. Get everything fitted. It looks beautiful. You know, there's a little bit down, but sometimes I go in and just make sure it's all fluxed nicely, all the pieces. Although I do have to water my flux down a little. Okay, this piece I saw, I think you guys also saw that I had fitted perfectly. So let's see, I'm kind of maybe changed my mind a little bit. Let's see if these pieces work. I can even do a little bigger, I think. Try a little bigger. I always like when I have a little bit of dimension in a piece. Okay, let's see if that, oh good, that's gonna work. And do I grab another one? These are sterling silver findings that I have. I told you guys I really like to use different findings around. Sometimes I'll put all the, you know, all of it down myself, but it just so happens that I have two little findings here. So I'm gonna use these. Okay. All right. Well, actually, that does fit well. I have to get some solder down. Let me get solder down here. I'm just gonna flood a little bit right here, and in the meantime, yeah, you guys can still see there. I made two pieces right here. I have two little granulation that I'm just gonna flatten a little, and then I will get, okay, so I have these two little pieces. They're actually gonna sit right on top of here to give me a little more dimension. This has solder on the back. I'm gonna put solder onto here. Then I'll go back in afterwards and get this next phase done. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start with this. So let me dry it off. So, you know, decoration design, this is a little bit, this is kind of the second stages of maybe, or goes hand in hand with that granulation chapter. Stepped out a little bit more and wire. So let's get some medium solder down into the bezels. Oh, I've got enough, but I might have to make a little soon. Right? Because of the beautiful way that, because I had so much flux on here, it really is holding these pieces down like glue. So I don't seem to have a worry here with the solder. And my bezel's moving around. Okay, get a little bit of flux. Okay. You know, a lot of people ask me, do I put everything down at one time? I usually don't put everything down at one time. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a few dots of medium solder right here, and that's gonna end up flowing. And you know, a lot of this I'm gonna end up cutting away. So, you know, I really don't like to see my, I really don't like to see solder flow all over the place, but you know, this is where I want to stick those two pieces, and it's going to be easier if I just do this now. Hold the space for it. I could put some here and here, but I might as well just go ahead and wait there and there. Yeah. Okay. Warming it up. Getting in from under, heating up my screen super well. A little bit of flux is holding that bezel up in the air, but that's okay. Okay. Let's see if we can get this going inside of here. We can do this nice and high. Okay, you can see my solder starting to flow. I'm working on a big piece. I might cut some of this down the next time around. Start getting some of this cut. And then I'm gonna get this back cut out too, so I can see this wire shine through beautifully. Okay, there we go. We've got it flowing here beautifully. Okay, got this piece headed downward. Got my solder flowing there. Let's get this one done, and we will be done. Okay, guys. Okay, next step, I'm gonna put this in the pickle. Everything's down, I'm gonna put this in the pickle. Okay, I'm gonna show you what I'm doing here. I have my piece back. Look, I actually cut it down. I cut out the inside so I can get at this a little better. And I made a mistake. I do want these two beautiful garnet on each side of my piece. I think it's gonna look beautiful. And then I'm actually going to put other bezels in here, talking about the design. So I'm gonna have to forego soldering this down and do these separate and bring a bar out, which is pretty cool because I know so many people have asked me about, you know, how I do put my bars down. So that's cool. Now I did see I've got a little bit of a bezel to set down over here. You guys will be able to see once I get closer. And I'm gonna flood a little bit of solder on here because you'll see as I get going. So let me go ahead and flood some of my solder, and then I think you guys will like this whole idea. So Let me make sure, oh yeah, see, I've got a little space right here to get this down. So I'm gonna try to get a little bit more medium inside here once I dry this off. Ooh, you guys could hear that wind outside, but it should be much easier to get at. Even when you're using hot torches, you know, you still have, it just could be troublesome. Okay. Okay, now where else do I need to flood solder? I'm gonna put some bezels here. And this whole side is gonna be kind of filled in, so. A little bit warm. Okay, get this spread out. Put in a bezel cup there. So you could either put the bezel cup on, you know, here's my bezel cups that are going down and I'm fitting them into the corner. So you could either set it on, of course, the back of this if you need to be super, super neat, which is a pretty good idea. But if you don't have to be super neat, then, you know, then you're okay. So I think up in here, I decided I'm doing, actually I might set all this down. I'm gonna do some pieces that look like this. Let's see if I can get that down. I think I can. There we go. Whoop. And if I can't, I can change. I think I can though, but if I can't, I can just change the shape ever so slightly. Well, there we go. Okay. So I'm gonna actually put some medium in there and I've got something to lay over the top of this. Okay. There's my medium. Ooh, you guys get to hear all that wind in the background. How is that? Okay, I think I've got it all under control for what I want. Get this lit. Well, you guys know how some days are better than others. Some days are a little clumsy and some days are nice and smooth, so we'll see. You can see I can get that heat going a lot better with this cut out, so I'm really happy I cut that out. I just have to make sure I stay on this side because that's where I want my solder to flow out of. So I'm gonna work on this first. You know, it's like when you talk about priorities, I guess what I'm showing you guys is priorities when you're doing layers and layers and layers. So if I'm doing layers and layers, my priority is going to be to finish getting this bezel down. Because if I don't, it's really difficult to get to the inside of this. To get to the inside of your base. Usually I totally have super quick flow, but no worries. I love when I'm on here and things don't go as smoothly, right guys? Isn't that kind of nice? No. Okay, get this melted a little under here. It's gonna help get my piece going. It'll get this wire soldered down and it'll also help me with this next piece to get it soldered down. Get all this flowing. Okay, there we go. solder flowing. Well, as you guys know, once you get it flowing, that's all you need. Okay, all right, there's the inside. So let me get the pieces set up and you guys will get to see my design that I'm doing here. And as I'm setting these down, I'm dipping these right in. So these go right inside here in a nice little way. And I've already got my solder flowing. The outside is done. That should be nice and beautiful. Okay. My other pieces are the bezel cups. These are just the pre-made bezel cups. That'll be so easy for those teeny tiny ones. These are so nice sometimes. Oops, I guess I don't need all that flux inside here. It's just gonna cause some trouble. I'll just try to get it right on the bottom. Beautiful. These fit beautiful. It's always nice to get your bezels where all your components can fit in. Super excited. There's going to be a nice ring. And then you guys know about my 2 pieces that I just made here. Let me get them. So, you know, I either could have put solder on the back of all of these pieces or flooded the bottom like I did. So I decided to flood it. Most of this area will be cut away. Okay, is this nice and straight? Let me get out my board. No, I've got some problems here. This goes up a little high. So let me move this down. Move this bezel cup down. There we go. All of these little details here are important. Now, I do have this, oops, I do have this piece right here. So if I do need to check on if everything is straight, how things are looking, I've got my lines on here. I'm gonna use this later. I like the way everything is headed. Looks like it's nice and even. I'm gonna get it back onto my screen because this is actually a better piece to solder onto. Okay, guys, everything's coming down at one time, and then the only thing I'll have left to do is my bars on the bottom, which will be another fun thing that you guys will be able to take a look at. Okay, I'm gonna turn my torch nice and hot to get all this under here. Get this heated up. Oops, you see I'm gonna have to slide back that bezel since I moved it. This time I'm just gonna try to stay under for most of the time. I've got all my side areas to do in here, so there's quite a few areas to get flowing. And these are these nice big pieces. I always like, you know, the medium pieces are always the easiest. When you start getting into small and when you start getting into large, your life, you know, things become a little bit more difficult, so. I've got a big surface to heat up, so it just takes a little bit of time. I'm gonna bounce it off the screen, that's all. Get it pretty low, just like we do. There we go. Just want to make sure that your pick is nice and cool when you start getting into these areas. And I'm just waiting to see it surface a little bit. Okay. Once we get it heated, man, we know it's going to start flowing here. So this side should be pretty close as well to being done. There we go. Make sure these ends are done. We've got these tiny little pieces here. You want to especially make sure when you're using this shot plate that you reach from under, because it's so easy to have the top surface pattern disappear when you are hitting the top end of it at all. So there we go, guys. Everything's in place beautifully. Looks like it's still nice and even. I like that. Take off my binoculars and take a look. Okay, you guys, how exciting. It's getting closer and closer. I'm gonna pickle this and I'm gonna start getting the bars ready, and I'm gonna do some cutout with my jeweler's saw. Okay, you guys, here's the remaining pieces that I need. I'm gonna use, these are 2 pieces of 14 gauge that I'm putting across the back. I usually love taking kind of, you know, unusual shapes. That's gonna help me put a ring band on. And it has my signature on here. That's gonna go on the end. I'll show you that. And then I have my 2 bezels done. So I'm gonna start with getting some, I dipped these all in flux. I'm gonna start with getting some medium solder, yay, onto these pieces. I usually like to stay away from the marker that's on here because I wanna keep this marker bright. You can see how I'm using these lines here to make sure that that I have a straight line. Okay. Okay. Make sure I can see solder on each side. Is going to make my life easier. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to show you what I do. You know, I'm going to put the bezel wires, the bezels right on the side, but with this piece here, I'm going to flood this with a little bit of, oh, I probably will still just put on some, get a nice medium on here. Gather up some medium, put a little bit on here. This spot would be good, this spot would be good. And you're gonna see, I'm gonna get it to flow here first, and then I'll get to flow right in the center. And I will place my piece down. This gives me grounding in all ways. Ooh, my studio just got light right at this time of the afternoon. My studio gets super light. All right, let me do this one first. This will be a nice trick that I'm going to show you guys here, because I can't just lay this piece down. You have to be very careful on all levels. I have to have it hot, but you can't just lay it down, or, you know, everything has to be hot. There we go. Or you'll never get it hot enough. It'll never stick. Okay, there we go. I can see the solder out a little bit on the sides. And that's how I get this piece down. I'll be able to really get a nice ring band on here with this. So it's looking really good. Oh, the other side is looking beautiful. These are my next steps. I'm just gonna pull a couple. Let me decide which way I'm gonna form these. Maybe this way, maybe the long way. It's gonna be a nice, chunky piece. Gorgeous, I love it. And then I think up top, I'm just gonna do a little, I have a little bit of space there too, so I might as well, you know, formulate something beautiful little sets down here to kind of, you know, reinforce, just to give me a replication of the inside too. So I think that's gonna be my steps that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna close my shades before we get back up here so you guys, and I'll get my pieces ready. I think what I'll do, this already has solder on it, but I need a screen underneath to be able to work this. And I wanna get these pieces ready with the flat shot. So I'll show you that in just a sec. A little bit of solder on each tip. I think I have enough, but we'll see. Oops. I have my bezel ready. Get this ready. There's a lot of heat working against me, so just gonna take a little bit more time for this. It's always good to go under. My screen is nice and hot here. You want to be careful with your pliers holding on to your bezel sides. You don't want to ruin the bezel sides. My bezel is fine silver for this in this case, so yeah. Okay, there we go. Finally moving this solder, getting it closer. There we go. Getting some heat bounced off here, and voila. Go. Make sure it's cooled off. All right, might as well get a little bit more solder on this end to make sure. Now I want these to be even. This one is a little shorter, so I will just have to make sure this has up. And I notice there's a little, for some reason, I don't have this all the way closed up. All this little tedious work, you know, when you get into the more complex, you just have sometimes a little bit more tedious work. There we go. I had a little spot there that was open, and it's never too late. I usually like having the points facing outward. So let's get this a little warmed up. Oh, nope, that's the wrong spot. I've got on my magnifiers. So it's hard to see the grand design when you've got your magnifiers on, you know it? Have to get this nice and hot. Keep my bezel close, so when it's ready to go, it's gonna flow. Got my arm sturdy. This one's a little closer to the main piece. Yep. Okay. Sometimes you just do what you do, right? Okay, let's see if we can get these on. I've got two pieces for the very, very end. I'm gonna have to turn this up super high because I really want to make sure that these are close to the end. So let's get these on, and then you guys are going to see the end of the project here. I'm doing medium. I'm not doing hard. Get my binoculars back on. I'm going to turn this up pretty hot. This one is going to take a little less heat, my actual component. So when it's ready, I want to make sure that I can just pop it on without too much extra heat. Up. All right, well, that one's going to have to be redone. And I want to make sure that one's going to have to be redone. You guys just got to see me do a nice mistake, right? Let me get this flowing really good with these little delicate pieces, and then I'll place it on here. Get it flowing really good. There we go. Anytime you see it move like that, it's on. Okay, I'm gonna have to make another one of these. So you guys will get the idea. And then I'm gonna do I'll show you some cutouts. I'm gonna make one more of these little components. That one I'll turn into something else or try to repair, but I just really want it to be pretty, or I'll have to actually fix it. It's just missing a ball. So I'm gonna have to add one ball to the end of that. And then, oh man, I'm gonna love the way that this looks. I'm gonna show you, I'll do a lot of cutouts for any negative space. There's no reason to have all this space here.